It's past midnight. I'm in Matsudo, a city in Chiba, just east of Tokyo. Not famous, not on any tourist map, just a place where 500,000 people happen to live. The street lights are still on, the road is cleaned. Outside the station, there's a row of bicycle that's been there since this morning. And I feel completely fine. Those helmets, nobody's touched them all day, and it hasn't been awkward to anyone to worry. I know someone who left their electric bicycle outside the station with the key still in the lock, not for an hour, for 3 days, still there, key and all. This is Matsudo, 30 minutes from Tokyo on the Joban line, an ordinary city, and this kind of thing happens here every single day. If you come here from outside Japan, ask why. You get the same answer every time. Japan is just safe. It's the culture. Japanese people are honest. But there is a thing I want to talk about tonight. Japan isn't safe because Japanese people were born different. Japan feels safe because of systems. Systems that are very old, very deliberate, and not entirely visible to the people working through them. And some of those systems come with the cost that most people never think about.
Let's start with what's actually true. Japan's murder rate is 0.78 per 100,000 people. That is generally one of the lowest in the world. Robbery, burglary, street assault. All of these are low, but almost any international comparison. If you're walking down a street in Tokyo at night and you worry about being mugged, statistically, the worry is well-founded almost nowhere else, but pretty unjustified here. The part is real. Japan is generally safer than most countries for certain kinds of crime. But there's a gap between safer for certain kinds of crime and one of the safest country in the world. And when you look at the numbers more carefully, the gap gets interesting. In criminology, there's a concept called dark figure, the crimes that happened but never got reported. Every country has a dark figure, but the size of dark figure tells you a lot about how much the official statistics actually reflect reality. In Japan, the dark figure for sexual violence is staggering. A 2020 Cabinet Office survey found that 1 in 14 women in Japan had experienced forced sexual intercourse. 1 in 14. Now, here's a gap. An NHK survey in 2022 found that only about 10% of those cases were ever reported to police. And of those reported cases, only about 10% ended in conviction. Do the math. The effective conviction rate for sexual violence in Japan is roughly 1%, not 99%, 1. Why don't people report? The survey found the most common reasons were embarrassment, distrust of the police, not wanting to cause trouble, expecting to not be believed. Those aren't personal feelings. Those are rational responses to a system that has historically treated those cases as something other than serious crime. Japan's rape law didn't include consent standard until 2023. I'm not saying Japan is uniquely dangerous. I'm saying the safe country statistics are measuring something specific and leaving out a lot. There's something about the safe in Japan experience that is worth unpacking more carefully. Because when people say Japan is safe, they usually mean Tokyo, and when they mean Tokyo, they often mean the parts of Tokyo the tourists actually see. But Tokyo isn't just Tokyo. Greater Tokyo, the city and its surrounding prefectures, is the largest metropolitan area in the world, about 37 million people. Most of them don't live in Shibuya or Shinjuku. They live in Saitama, in Kanagawa, in Chiba, in Tochigi, in 1,000-bedroom towns connected to Tokyo by the largest commuter rail network on Earth. And here's what's interesting. The safety feeling doesn't stay inside a Yamanote line. It goes all the way out. In Urawa, in Kawasaki, in Matsudo, in towns you never heard of. The bicycle outside the station has been there since 7 a.m. and nobody has touched it. The wallet that fell out of someone's pocket on the platform in Tokorozawa is sitting in the station's lost and found. 14 minutes later, untouched. Japan returns roughly 83% of lost wallets, cash included. In New York, the number is around 6%. That's not just a Tokyo story, that's a national one. But I want to add something that almost never comes up in these conversations about Japan's safety. The trains. Japan's rail network runs over 8 billion passenger journeys a year. JR East alone operates more than 1,700 trains a day in a greater Tokyo area. Average delay on Japan's Shinkansen over the last decade is less than 1 minute per journey. Less than 1 minute, over thousands of journeys per year. And it's not just the Shinkansen, the local lines, the subway, the private railways. All of them run without second of the published schedule. So railway that JR issues formally apology certificates if a train is more than 5 minutes late. Now, why does a train schedule belong in an episode about crime? Because punctuality isn't just a logistics achievement. It's a signal. It says this system works. This society is functioning. You are in a place where things are maintained. When a society demonstrates that it can run 10,000 trains a day without seconds of schedule, it is also demonstrating that it takes the experience of being in the public space extremely seriously. The same culture that maintains the train schedule is the culture that returns your wallet, that doesn't touch the bicycle, that keeps the platform clean at 11:30 at night. Look up when you walk down a Japanese street, not the main shopping streets, the quiet ones. You see them, small cameras bolted to the top-ups of the lamp posts, and underneath yellow sign, 防犯カメラ作動中, crime prevention camera in operation. Japan doesn't publish official statistics on how many of these there are, but a 2012 Nikkei Shimbun report estimated around 3 million. And there was over decades ago, the Japan Federation of Bar Associations issued a formal statement that same year calling for legislation to regulate these cameras because there was almost none. Anyone could install one almost anywhere. But here's what I find interesting about these cameras in Japan versus other countries. It's not just the cameras, it's the sign. In the UK, where CCTV is ubiquitous, the cameras are just there. You notice them or you don't. In Japan, there's almost always a sign telling you the camera exists. The point is just the surveillance. The point is that you know you're being watched. The deterrence isn't the camera. It's knowledge that someone is always watching. But cameras are only part of the story. Japan has something that no other developed country has at the same scale. 277,000 neighborhood associations. They are called chonaikai or chichikai. And almost every neighborhood in Japan has one. A 2007 Cabinet Office survey found that 93% of communities reported having one, and 94% of those people were members. So their origins go back about 1,000 years. The collectives called yui. Agriculture groups where farmers helped each other with planting and harvesting. Over centuries, these evolved into town associations that managed local order. During World War II, the government formalized them. as tools of state administration. They were technically abolished in 1947 by the American occupation forces, who recognized what they were. But by 1952, they had quickly come back. Today, they do a long list of things. They organize disaster drills, they manage garbage collection schedules, they pass around kaidanban, a clipboard of local notice that circulates house to house, and they patrol. Volunteers, usually retired men or women in their 60s and 70s, walk the streets of their neighborhood in yellow vests with a flashlight, specifically the data crime. 277,000 associations across the whole country watching. There is no app for this. There is no government department. It is just neighbors watching neighbors. And it works. Research in Kobe and Kyoto has shown that stronger chonaikai correlate with a measurably lower street crime. But here's the question that I think is worth sitting with. When everyone is watching everyone, is that safety or is it something else? There's a third layer to this, deeper than cameras, deeper than neighborhood patrols. It's a concept called Seken. Seken is sometimes translated as society or the world, but it means something more specific. It means the community of people who are watching you and whose opinion of you matters. In Japan, Seken is everywhere. What will the neighbors think? What will the office think? What will the country think? There's a face, hito no me ga aru. There's a people's eyes, meaning someone is always watching, even when no one is physically there. The imagined audience is still present. This is why things that seem mundane to outsiders have such power here. The bicycle isn't left without a lock, because stealing it would mean being the kind of person who steals bicycles. And in a country where your reputation is tied to your community in ways that are hard to escape, that is a significant cost. In most Western countries, the main deterrent for crime is the external system, the police, the law, the punishment. In Japan, the primary deterrent is internal, the imagined eyes of the community shame. The surveillance doesn't just come out from the cameras, it comes from having grown up in a society that told you that the cameras were watching. Here's a number that doesn't get talked about enough. When people discuss Japan's safety, 99.8%. That is Japan's conviction rate for cases that go to trial. If you are persecuted in Japan, not arrested, not charged, but formally persecuted, you will almost certainly be found guilty. 99.8%. To put that in context, one scholar described public trains in Japan as essentially ceremonies for ratifying persecutors' decisions, not a test of guilt, a confirmation of it. Here's how the system works. When someone is arrested in Japan, prosecutors can hold them for up to 23 days before formally charging them. Without bail, often without a lawyer present during questioning, 23 days. In most other advanced democracies, the number is 24 to 48 hours. And here's the mechanism. If you refuse to confess, bail is routinely denied on the grounds that you might destroy evidence or intimidate witnesses. So the detention continues after weeks or months in a cell, losing your job, your reputation, your savings to legal fees. Many people confess simply to end their ordeal, even when they're innocent. Critics, including Human Rights Watch, have called this system hostage justice, 人質司法. Human rights lawyers in Japan have been calling for reform for over 40 years. The case that put this on the international radar was Carl Sken, the former Nissan CEO who was arrested in 2018 and held for a month before fleeing the country to avoid trial. Whatever you think of Gon, guilty, innocent, complicated, what his case showed the world was that this system doesn't just apply to ordinary Japanese citizens, it applies to everyone. So let me come back to that street. Why does Japan feel safe? Part of it genuine. The murder rate is low, street crime is low, the culture of not watching to cause trouble. That's real, and it matters. The train run, the wallets come back, the bicycle, even with the key in it, is there in the morning. But part of it is a very sophisticated, very layered system. Cameras without regulation, 277,000 neighborhood associations whose origins include wartime, state administration, an internalized sense that you're always being watched by your community, and a justice system where being arrested is already statistically almost the end of the road. Each of those things does reduce certain kinds of crime. The research is clear on that. But each of those things almost come with a question attached. The cameras, who has access to the footage, the neighborhood associations, what happens to people who don't fit in, the shame culture, what does it cost to live your whole life under an imagined audience, the justice system, how many innocent people are inside it right now. These aren't hypothetical questions. Japan is actively debating all of them. The conviction rate is under international scrutiny. The camera networks are being questioned by lawyers. The Chonaikai membership rate is declining as younger generations opt out. Japan knows its safety is not free. I want to end out with something that I think ties this whole season together. In the first episode, we talk about cleanliness, how Japan went from filthy to spotless, not because of ancient wisdom, but because of embarrassment, political will, and 100 years of reputation. In the second episode, we talk about politeness, how the warmth you experience is real, but it's almost the surface of hierarchy and a set of obligations that returns very deep. And now safety. The safety you feel when you walk down this street at midnight is also real. It's real because of the system, cameras, associations, social pressure. It's just a system with very high stakes for everyone who steps outside it. None of these things are accidents. They're all choices that Japan made. Over centuries, they all work and they all cost something. There's a Japanese phrase I keep coming back to, anzen anshin. It means safety and peace of mind. But in Japanese, they're two separate words because they're two separate things. Anzen, the objective condition of being safe, anshin, the subjective feelings of being at peace. What Japan has reflected is anshin, the feeling. Anzen, the reality is more complicated, as it is everywhere. What I've come to believe is that these things, the feeling and reality, are always going to be different everywhere, in every country. But the gap between them tells you something important about how society is organized, what is willing to build, what is willing to hide, and who gets to feel safe and who doesn't. Next time on Hidden Japan, you've been in Japan or you want to go and you already know this feeling. Even if you've never been able to explain it, nobody talks to you on the train, at the viewpoint, even when you make eye contacts. Are they cold? Are they shy? Or is something else going on? I'm Japanese and I had to leave my own country to finally understand the answer. That's episode 4. Thank you for watching.